Hello every pony and welcome to my review of Just for Sidekicks. Spike-centric episodes are usually not the fandom's favorite type of episode. This usually isn't due to the writers, though. It's because Spike is just so shallow as a character. The only traits we've seen him exhibit is a love for rarity, a love for gems, a love for helping Twilight, and on a rare occasion, his dragon greed getting the best of him. Many other analysts have pointed out that Spike's real problem as a character is that he doesn't have his own personal purpose. His only goal is to help Twilight with whatever she needs, and he doesn't seem to have any real goals or aspirations for himself. I do agree that this is the main reason why the fans can't connect with Spike that well. The closest Spike has ever come to discovering what he's meant to do with his life was in Dragon Quest, and even then there really wasn't that much to work with. In that episode, the dragon life was shown to be very dull, boring, and lacking a purpose itself. The teenage dragons in that episode just roughhoused all day, and it's been seen in other episodes that adult dragons just lounge around protecting their treasures. As fans, though, we want more for Spike. We want him to have his own aspirations, his own journey, and his own destination. So far, we haven't gotten that. In fact, this episode is probably the furthest from that ideal character model for Spike. Fresh off the well-received Sleepless in Ponyville, Corey Powell was on the fast track to become one of the most adored writers in the show. Will his second script for MLP, Just for Sidekicks, be a worthy successor to Sleepless in Ponyville? Let's find out. Our episode starts out with a nice sweeping shot that shows pictures of Spike and Pee-wee, the phoenix Spike adopted near the end of Season 2's Dragon Quest. I never noticed this before sitting down to do this review, but it is kind of nice to know that the writers haven't forgotten about Pee-wee. I automatically assume that they had after Dragon Quest, but these pictures tell me otherwise. In fact, Pee-wee's absence from the show is explained here. It kind of sucks that it was in a medium that could be so easily missed, and that the writers abandoned the character of Pee-wee so soon, but I guess this badly delivered explanation is better than no explanation at all. Also, I gotta hand it to Corey Powell here. This is a very good way to foreshadow the future conflict using a character we hadn't seen in a while. It does this by showing Spike isn't that good with pets, which leads him to return Pee-wee back to his parents. It kills two birds with one stone, no pun intended, by both setting up the conflict and delivering a conclusion to Pee-wee's character arc, and I use the term arc very loosely, at the same time. So Spike is trying to bake himself a jewel cake, but keeps constantly eating the jewels for his cake before he can bake it. We get some pretty great faces from Spike in this scene, as well as a variation of his infamous "no" cry from a dog and pony show. Theme. This episode is actually part of a two-part story arc. Just for Sidekicks here shows one day's adventures through Spike's perspective, while the episode Games Ponies Play later this season follows the same day's events through the eyes of the main six, which is the episode that follows the events that Fluttershy is mentioning to Spike in this scene. This is the first time in the show's history that two episodes have run parallel to each other in the show's timeline, showing different events from different characters' viewpoints, and having those two episodes' events and characters interweave with each other at certain points in time. It was certainly a daring experiment for the MLP staff to try this, and I'd say it was a success. The fact that this episode so seamlessly ties into the events in Games Ponies Play is certainly one of the biggest highlights of this episode for me. I don't think the writers should try to do this all the time, but once per season will be fine with me. From the looks of things, it looks like this has already been happening in Season 5, as many fans have pointed out Starlight Glimmer sneaking around in the background of many episodes this season. We shall see in the near future if this has anything to do with the season finale. Since Spike is out of jewels to bake his cake, Fluttershy offers him one to look after Angel while she and her friends are off in the Crystal Empire for the events that take place in Games Ponies Play. Spike, thinking with his stomach, eagerly accepts the responsibility so he can have the yummy jewel. Spike soon realizes that he could get more jewels by asking the other members of the main six to look after their pets while they're gone in the Crystal Empire in exchange for jewels. First, he visits Rainbow Dash and Rarity to see if he can get them to leave Tank in Opalescence with him during their trip. Dash tries to claim that Tank is tough and won't need babysitting, but after a few times of Tank being a bumbling idiot and crashing into stuff, Dashy agrees to leave Tank with Spike and pays him a jewel. Also, this is adorable. See, even Rarity thinks so. Dashy and Tank are by far the cutest pet and owner couple in this show. Dashy even blushes! Oh my god, Dashy's so cute! After seeing how helpless Tank is, Rarity also agrees to leave her pet with Spike. Since Spike only cares about the jewels, he doesn't even really listen to Dashy's demands about how to take care of Tank when she's gone. But when Rarity starts listing off her demands, Spike's crush kicks in and he documents everything Rarity says.
And the temperature in the room should always be exactly 81.4 degrees.
Also, a room temperature of 81.4 degrees? That's broiling! I get too hot in my house if the temperature is over 74 degrees. How do you live in that heat, Rarity? Sweet Celestia! I like how Rarity pays Spike with the smallest gem he gets in this episode. It shows how much he cares about Rarity when he cherishes it way more than the giant gem he got from Fluttershy. Spike then heads to Sugar Cube Corner to ask Pinky if he can babysit Gummy. Wow. This episode's so boring I'm actually excited to see Pinkie Pie. That's a bad sign. When it comes time for the ponies to leave for the Crystal Empire, they drop their pets off with Spike, including Applejack, who we didn't see Spike ask to babysit Winona, but I guess it was implied. Twilight immediately sees through Spike's generosity when AJ tells her that Spike is taking care of the main six's pets. After the events of Secret of My Excess, I can't really blame her for being skeptical. This scene with the main six saying goodbye to their pets is also quite cute. My favorite goodbyes are from Pinky and Rainbow Dash.
Oh, I know. It's a chilly 81.2 in here.
Wait, you think 81.2 degrees is chilly? What the hell, Rarity? What in the actual hell? It becomes very apparent, just as Twilight predicts right before she leaves, that Spike is in way over his little dragon head. The critters immediately go AWOL and start trashing the library. Spike tries to get the pets under control, and most of them listen to him, except for Angel, who scurries off at the first opportunity. Spike eventually finds Angel with the Crusaders, and discovers that the Crusaders are getting along with him really well. It's then that he decides to try and hand all the critters off to the CMC so he can get back to making his cake. The Crusaders decline at first, but Spike persuades them into thinking there might be some cutie marks in it for them if they take his offer. The CMC then realize that they may need to buy some things to keep the pets happy, so they convince Spike to hand over a gem to cover their expenses. I'm surprised that Spike parts with the one Rarity gives him here. I know it's probably because it was the smallest one and he wants to keep the big ones for his jewel cake, but it would have been nice to see him try to hold on to it for this episode. On his way back from buying ingredients for his cake, Spike overhears the Crusaders making some troubling statements about the pets, and he rushes to check on them. It's clear that the CMC are not cut out to take care of all these pets either, and Spike decides to take them back. Many fans have questions about the monetary value of gems in this episode, as the little gem that Spike gave to the Crusaders was used to buy a giant industrial-sized pet hairdryer. But I don't really think gem size matters here in Equestria. Perhaps the type of gem matters more, because Spike mentions earlier in the episode about his cake having 1,000 carats of gems inside.
1,000 plus carats of pure deliciousness.
Perhaps gem's value is determined by its carat and not by its size. Oh hey, Screw Loose, sup? We haven't seen you since Read It and Weep. On his way back to the library, Spike encounters Zecora, who tries to teach him about the importance of generosity. She tricks Spike into thinking she can help him get the pets under control, but asks for a gem as payment for this information. Spike gives it to her, and she proceeds to donate it to charity. However, this message becomes lost on Spike and basically goes in one ear and out the other. After Granny Smith catches Spike not doing a good job at caring for the animals and asks for a gem in return for her silence about it, Angel escapes Spike once more, this time hopping on the Friendship Express. Spike enlists the help of the CMC, who are practicing for a skydiving cutie mark.
On top of a bridge over a shallow river? Thank you. Thank you, you wonderful dragon, for saving Scootaloo's life. You are my hero. Here, a token of my gratitude.
Go back to your room, dude. Once Spike, the pets, and the CMC arrive in the Empire, Angel escapes again and darts off the train. This is where we find out that the train is actually being boarded by the main six returning home from their time in the Empire. Luckily, Spike catches Angel and boards the train again to head home to Ponyville. However, Spike, the pets, and the CMC are all forced to hide when the main six start approaching their train car. Once the main six sit down, Angel threatens to warn them of Spike's presence by slamming his foot against the seat where one of them is sitting. Just before Angel kicks the seat, Spike admits that he was doing a terrible job at taking care of the pets. The pets forgive him, and Angel feeds Spike his last remaining jewel to keep his rumbling stomach from alerting the main six. Finally, once the train stops in Ponyville, Spike, the pets, and the CMC dart off the train and make it ahead of the main six to greet them at the station before they suspect a thing. Twilight is impressed with Spike, thinking that he managed to keep the pets under control all along. Spike then heads home to finish his jewel cake, but he eats his last remaining jewel before it can make it into the batter. So, what did I think of this episode? I didn't really like it that much. The message that Sakura gives is pretty good, and the interweaving story with Games Ponies Play is very unique and interesting. But those are the only entertaining parts of the episode, the scenes where it interacts with Games Ponies Play. The story is just so painfully boring. I struggled to find anything to joke about or speculate further on in this episode because it's just so bland. I'm not always opposed to slice-of-life stories like this one, but this episode lacked an escalating conflict. It's just a 22-minute game of cat and mouse between Spike and Angel. If them nearly being discovered by the main six is Corey Powell's idea of a climax, then I'd say that's a hugely underwhelming climax. As usual, I like to rate episodes on a 3-tiered system of rewatch it, watch it once, or skip it. Although some things in Games Ponies Play would be a bit out of place, and you may miss what happens to Pee-wee, I'd advise you to skip this episode. The moral is not enough to warrant wasting your time watching a dragon chase a bunny for 22 minutes. As always, I'm Critical Thought, and I'll see you all in my next video. Never stop thinking critically.